Okay. And so, can we first start talking about the Cleveland Community Police Commission? Can you just explain to us what that is exactly?
So the Cleveland Police Commission um, it's a group of individuals that have been selected that kind of do a deep dive through the policies of the Cleveland Police Department. They're comprised of community members, some police officers, police chiefs, and then other people who are in respective professional settings that kind of work side by side with this. And so they have open forum meetings where individuals who are just in the community can come and ask questions about topics or bring topics to the Cleveland Police Commission. And so what Equality Ohio was doing was working on a document, a trans-inclusive document, alongside of the Cleveland Police Commission and ACLU and Trans Ohio and Margie's Hope, so just a few other organizations to make sure that the document was as comprehensive as possible and to protect trans people who live within Cleveland, but also those who are visiting Cleveland. So that way people can have positive interactions with the Cleveland Police Department.
I think sometimes I experience a little bit of a disconnect when talking about police violence and some of the responses to it when people aren't super involved in LGBTQ work and the LGBTQ community that we are in the same way, kind of living and breathing these issues every day. What's it like kind of voicing the LGBTQ perspective in those spaces?
It's hard because it's not something that is easily talked about in those spaces, and they don't want to address it really. So there's a lot of deflection, dismissal, and outright hostility sometimes. And obviously that's not with the people necessarily on the commission. Sometimes you get that because obviously you have to have different views on a commission, but a lot of times it's just with the police department directly. That's not information that they want to hear, that they're not treating people well and that they're not protecting and serving individuals because they feel like they're doing the best that they can do with their utmost ability. And so I think no one likes to be called out. And people definitely don't like to be called out when it's known that you're targeting a specific group of people. So it's hard, and sometimes we have to water down a lot of what we know to try to meet them where they are, to then try to build these individuals back up to get them to where we need them to be. And so it's frustrating because it's like it's right in front of your face. We see this, we have these statistics, and we know that this is happening. And so where's the disconnect with you knowing that you're a part of this happening and this actually happening?
Can you speak to what kind of recommendations were submitted by Equality Ohio and other LGBTQ groups to better CDP's disciplinary process and their overall maybe attitude towards the LGBTQ communities?
So we talked about the forms that they have. So taking off certain words in like alias, because alias assumes that that is not your name. And we know as people who are trans and transitioning, sometimes it's hard to get your legal name changed. And so you have a preferred name, but that does not mean that it's an alias. And for us, it makes it seem like an alias is something that you're evading something, and that's not necessarily what it is. So starting places simple like that. Training, doing more comprehensive training around dealing with LGBTQ individuals and how to, when you're encountering them, and how to deal with them once you have encountered them, and then how to deal with them once you have them in custody if you have arrested them, whether it's lawfully or unlawfully. So, steps like that to say, okay, just because you have someone in custody does not mean that you can degrade them or dehumanize them with certain words or tactics that you wouldn't necessarily use on another group of individuals. But also knowing about the disciplinary infraction sheet that they have, and I feel like this is public knowledge, so we should talk about the fact that Cleveland Police Department's their disciplinary infraction sheet only lasts for 3 years. So every 3 years it gets wiped clean, and that baffles me, and I just don't understand because I don't understand how they're establishing a pattern of behavior. And so when we're trying to get accurate information on these instances, and so we have police officer A, and they've done this to victim A several times, okay, we write that up. And then you have police officer A who does this again to victim B, but it's 5 years later. It's not in that same sheet because it's been 3 years. And so that does not seem helpful. It doesn't seem helpful just as the police department as a whole, but it doesn't seem helpful for us gaining and gathering appropriate information on these circumstances and instances.
I think I need to hear that one more time just to make sure I'm understanding it right. So I know that if I'm late on my cell phone bill or a credit card payment or something like that, that can stay on my credit record for like 7 years. And so you're saying that the internal mechanism for disciplining officers, their record gets just completely wiped every 3 years?
That is what we were told. It gets completely wiped every 3 years, and there's not levels to it. I know it's so frustrating, and I was in a Cleveland Police Commission open meeting that they had, and I asked this question. I specifically said, so if this happens once, so you have police brutality and you get a complaint, and that happens, and it goes in your jacket, and then a year later you get the same complaint, is it like another level, or is it just another complaint? And he straight up told me it's just another complaint. There's not levels to it. And so it's the same as if you then, and the example that they used is stealing money out of a vending machine. That would just be an infraction. I said, okay, first off, why are they stealing money out of a vending machine? Because you're the police, and so that's theft. So that's another problem that you should be dealing with. But that is not at all, ever should it be on the same level as police brutality or a harassment complaint, because we know individuals complain about being harassed by police officers. And sometimes it's the same police officers. And so they didn't obviously disclose whether that goes in their jacket or not. But the fact that it is renewed every 3 years is disgusting and ridiculous. And that further perpetuates more problems, because then that is how these officers are getting away with committing these crimes. And then if they do get fired, it's easier for them to just go get hired at another police department. Because then you're looking, okay, well, the last 2 years before this, you didn't have any issues. Well, that's not exactly true. And so it's just a way for them to protect the bad apples, I really feel like.
Wow, I'm still reeling a little bit from that. Do you know when we might be able to see the new policy recommendations implemented in Cleveland Police Department?
Honestly, no. We submitted the document the end of June. And so hopefully we'll hear some information back. And honestly, they might not even tell us anything back. I don't know how long their process is with evaluating documents that are submitted to them. So we just have to keep waiting, honestly. But we really encourage them to do more trainings, bring in people to do these trainings, and not like a 1 hour or 2 hour training once a year. That is not sufficient. That is not sufficient for dealing with individuals. And so we're really hoping that they implement some of the things that we suggested.
I've seen a variety of tactics pop up over the years, especially in the Cleveland area, which has a really rich history and a resilient history of standing up to police violence. You know, one of the first names that comes to mind is Tamir Rice, and of course the names go further and further back. There's a variety of tactics to sort of hold police accountable, and the Community Police Commission is one. I wondered if you had thoughts on what it's like to sort of navigate different areas, and like the commission is one source of accountability, and I know there's others too. But how does it feel to kind of navigate those different strategies and to be somebody who's kind of in a lot of different places here?
It's hard because you're navigating places and strategies that are set in stone for people who are against people like me. Like they are created to combat and control individuals who look like me, young Black men, or LGBTQ individuals. And so it's hard to say, how do we navigate these systems and try to implement change? It's really rough. And it's interesting that you bring up Tamir Rice, because his cousin is on the Cleveland Police Commission. And she's doing amazing work. Latoya, she has a brilliant mind for change, and she brings these ideas and these thoughts, and I'm just like, yes, all of that you're saying has to be done. But we need people like that. We need people who have been directly affected by it to come in with a level head and say, my family has been affected by this. Here's some ways that we can effectively change these processes. But coming in realistically and knowing that it's not happening overnight. So people like that, people like me who are directly affected by it, but then also people who are just kind of on the outside looking in and saying, I see this and I see that it's not okay. This is how we work together to change it. But it's so hard because being a young Black person, your voice is not really being heard. They're not really hearing what you have to say, even if you're saying exactly what needs to be said. So it often feels like I'm repeating myself in these spaces, like, because I look so much younger than I am, first off. And so I'm not taken as seriously as I should. And I'm like, this is the life I live. I'm literally using my voice to protect my own life. Yes, we want to protect the lives of others, but like, this is my story. This could be me that you're having this meeting about. So that adds another layer of stress in these spaces sometimes, I think. But it's hard. It's really hard.
Are there any last things you'd like to say about the Cleveland Police Commission and the community response?
Just, be looking out for us attempting to do a town hall and really voicing your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas, because if we don't talk about it, if we don't have these conversations, we cannot fix these systems. And we know we have to actively implement change and not just talk about it. So fill out the surveys that we send out on SurveyMonkey and give your feedback, because it is needed and we are using it and we are like applying that pressure for them to use it.